Alright, so Dark Souls isn't due out till the first half of next year, and it's bound to go through a ton of changes, but if you're a Souls fan, you love to pick at the intricacies. I got to spend a few hours with the recent Gamescom demo, but while Namco wouldn't let us record the playthrough, I'm going to give you a detailed rundown on the state of Dark Souls 3's mechanics. So in this demo, you can pick from two pre-made classes, the Wandering Knight and the Northern Warrior. Aside from the armor, the obvious differences are that the Knight is equipped with a broadsword, and the Northern Warrior has a one-handed axe. Stats weren't present in this demo. So combat. It definitely feels Dark Souls as opposed to Bloodborne. The first thing I noticed was that the Dark Souls 1 kick is back for guard breaking. Just hold a direction with your left analog stick and hit R1 at the same time. There are two types of shields right now, one that lets you parry and riposte with L2, and one that lets you perform the new art attacks by holding L2. There's a little icon next to the shield that shows you what function it has. Arts attacks use up what I'm going to call arts points, of which you get 20. This is refreshed at each bonfire, just like your Estus flask. The broadsword is the Wandering Knight's default weapon, and its arts move is a ready stance, which gives you access to a secondary light and heavy attack variation. These do more damage than a regular attack, and each slash uses one arts point. The one-handed axe is the Northern Warrior's default weapon. The arts move it has is a barbarian-style Fusro Da shout, which stuns enemies and gives you a small damage buff. I found myself using this one a lot. I'd combo an enemy, and when it would start its attack string, I'd stun it with the shout to reset its state, letting me continue with another combo. The greatsword you find has an arts move, which looks like a quick stomp forward. It kind of looks like an on-the-ground attack, a parry, or a guard break, but I really wasn't able to connect it on basic enemies in these kind of scenarios. If you hit R2 during the step though, you perform a big upward slash. The dual scimitars you find have a two-handed twirl as the arts move, which attacks in an area around you. It's a two-handed twirl regardless of whether you have it equipped in sword and board style or in two-handed form with one scimitar in each hand. It's a pretty fast weapon, so it's easy to follow up the arts attack with a regular combo. Alright, so riposte. Maybe it's been a while for me, but they felt easier to do and easier to trigger. And they gave you invincibility. Finding the sweet spot for backstabbing also felt easier, and it also makes you invincible, which some people might not be too happy about. Enemies can also backstab you, and enemies can also change stances. So for instance, some of the bigger knight enemies change from sword and board style to two-handed sword stances, just like you can. Coming straight from Bloodborne, dodging didn't feel as reliable in the Dark Souls demo. I won't spoil the monsters that surprised me, but I'll say the demo was swarming with lots of enemies per mob, and mobs that crawl up from the edge of the stage, and a lot of those enemies had sweeping attacks, which meant dodging a lot usually put me in a really bad position. You know, it's that classic Souls geometry trap. I felt things were more effective when I used my shield to block attacks and control the space, which is great because that's Dark Souls. Alright, so the items you can find in the demo are the Green Blossom, which gives you stamina regen, Pine Resin, which buffs your weapon with fire, Firebombs, Throwing Knives, and of course the Estus Flask, which you can still chug with multiple button presses to get multiple heals, so nothing new here. The demo didn't have stat screens, equip screens, or a hollowing mechanic, so that's all up in the air at this point, but I can confirm that the Praise of the Sun gesture is back, so don't need to worry. That's the state of the game post Gamescom 2015. It's due out in the first half of next year, but hopefully we'll see a lot more new stuff. So as always, be sure to stay tuned to GameSpot, where we'll keep you updated on Dark Souls 3.